Today's webinar will be presented by Jeremy James, Managing Partner, Ownet Consulting, and Mikhail Alstrom, COO of United Vanning Consulting. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand over to Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Colin. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeremy James, and thank you for joining our webinar on transforming customer communication within financial services. In this webinar, we will cover the value of channel management to financial services organisations and share the Novastone solution, as well as demonstrate the solution by sharing a storyboard that covers different use cases. And as Colin mentions, at the end of the session, we'll have time to answer any of your questions. But to start with, I'd just like to briefly introduce you to both United Vanning and Ownet. So I'd like to hand over to Mikhail, first of all, to introduce United Vanning.
Thank you, Jeremy, and welcome to all that have joined us, giving us some of your valuable time. My name is Nikki Ogden, and I am the CEO and co-founder of United Vanning. United Vanning has as its mission to expand our customers' potential by delivering projects, solving important problems, and delivering exceptional value. And we do that by connecting people, systems, devices, and data through systems integration and data integration. And we pretty much always work in internet partnerships with our customers, obviously, but we often bring in software partners such as Novastone, that we are going to demonstrate today, as well as work with various delivery partners such as Ownet in financial services. United means partnering for us, so it's part of our DNA to deliver in a win-win collaborative fashion. Vanna is a really old Scandinavian word that means separating the gold or extracting the gold from the ore. So our name stands for creating value in partnership. And that is a very brief introduction to United Vanning, and with that, I would like to hand back to you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Mikhail. And just a brief introduction to Ownet. So I founded Ownet nearly 4 years ago to offer a different consulting experience to our clients based on principles and structures that aim to ensure the success of our clients, and that's at the forefront of everything we do. All our consultants are experienced individuals with typically plus 10 years post-qualified experience, and typically they have a combination of consulting and also industry line experience. And the way that we remunerate our individuals is aligned to the success of our clients. So we don't have revenue targets, but we do have bonuses that are awarded individually and determined by our clients for those consultants. As well as that, each of our consultants has an ownership stake in the business, but unlike a traditional ownership stake, we've set aside a proportion of the company for the benefit of our consultants, who we call owners. And they gain credits into their ownership account by doing the right things for our clients, their colleagues, and the overall Ownet business. Now, as far as our focus is concerned, we are really here to help our clients execute on transformation and assurance projects with a functional expertise across finance and accounting, GRC, and supply chain management, predominantly within the financial services. So that's just a brief introduction to both United Vanning and to Ownet. So now moving on to why we are all here. But before we get there, I'd like to focus on the value that channel management brings. And I'd like to share with you some background on the rise of instant messaging. Though most of us hadn't heard of instant messaging, especially me, until the 90s, when we could instant message at work with friends on our desktops, or in my case, a chunky laptop, instant messaging has actually been around since 1961. However, it wasn't until the 2000s, with the rise of the smartphone, did IM come into its own. And in 2009, the current king of the IM platforms, WhatsApp, was introduced. Incidentally, this coincided with the introduction by Apple of its notification system, which is what allows you to see if you've got notifications on apps that you aren't using, so the little red dots and the pings that you get on your phone. With this and the rise of the likes of WeChat, Messenger, etc., we've now got a plethora of favourite messaging channels that have now become common for both business and social use, which is exactly where the challenge for businesses arise and why there is a need for a platform to help manage and control the instant messaging communication between clients and businesses. As I mentioned, as clients use IM more and more to communicate and transact business, there is a need to evolve the way that organisations communicate with their clients, enabling flexibility for the client while at the same time keeping control and resilience over the way that they communicate with their key contacts in the organisation. So channel management allows your clients to choose their communication method with your organisation, at the same time as ensuring controls and structures are in place, such as security and clear audit trail of conversations, and a separation of personal and work-related messages for employees. This results not only in driving operational resilience, but also delivers improved operations and cost savings by enabling integration of these messages into your CRM and front-to-back communications systems, whether this be for KYC, transactional or relationship management purposes. So to take this idea a little bit further, as the platform consolidates the different channels, there is now an ability to bring others into the conversation in a controlled and secure manner, and to help with a seamless transaction lifecycle, enabling clients to choose the platform they use to communicate, while bringing structured and auditable processes to the fore through structured forms and the ability for clients to securely authorize transactions, as well as integration into your business's front-to-back processes, whether that be a CRM, compliance, ERP or other core system, or with RPA and AI-enabled processes. Now we'll touch on this a little bit further when we go through the actual demonstration of the Novastone platform. However, I wanted to share a few examples of how channel management benefits a wide group of stakeholders. So in this example, in private banking and wealth management, your clients will want to know that they have a strong relationship with their relationship manager, while the bank wants to ensure that they retain the relationship even if the key employee leaves, and that they have joint up knowledge of the client for compliance and delivery and sales purposes. Similarly, in commercial banking, the ability to know a client business holistically is paramount for compliance, sales and relationship, making it easier and more cost effective for the bank to serve that client in a flexible and structured way to ensure continuity of service. And finally, in retail banking, where the requests and the support may be more varied across the client base and prospective clients, the use of a channel management solution like Novastone delivers consistency and efficiency of the service. So finally, before we move on to the Novastone solution itself, I'd like to share how the solution helps overcome the staff usage of personal IM for business. As said previously, the rise of IM in business is significant, with over 50% of employees now using instant messaging for business communication, and this is only going to increase. And currently, this communication is mixed in with their personal communications on their own WhatsApp or other message channel. And frequently, those personal accounts and devices means that the privacy of the employee is at risk, as all communication is through that single channel, meaning control issues for the organisation due to the blurring of personal and business messages. So if a staff member quits and joins another bank, they carry with them the customer details as well as the conversations on their mobile phones. This is a huge issue for obvious reasons. Now, through channel management, these are clearly segregated and gives clear boundaries to employees on their responsibilities while securing the relationship to the organisation rather than to the individual relationship manager. So now, despite new instant messaging platforms, banks are still relying heavily on email exchange for documentation and holding conversations with their customers. Now, email is inherently insecure and can easily be intercepted and read by the wrong individual. So this is where the Novastone solution really comes into its own on a security and segregation basis. So I'll now hand back to Mikhail to take you through the Novastone solution.
Thank you, Jeremy. I will now talk you through a couple of slides before we go into the actual use cases and the demonstration, and to summarize some of the key aspects and unique capabilities of the platform. So staff no longer would engage with customers using their personal WhatsApp accounts. All communications on the platform would be funneled through the bank's WhatsApp business account that creates a central storefront for the bank. It is the bank's WhatsApp account rather than a single employee's WhatsApp account. And this should obviously make the customer a lot more comfortable. Novastone can be set up as a private platform for the specific bank, which means that it becomes a platform wholly owned and controlled by the bank, and therefore also safe to integrate with. The look and feel and branding can therefore be made very compelling and truly serve as a storefront for the bank. It is resilient and scalable and relies on AWS scaling capabilities. As mentioned by Jeremy, instant messaging platforms are based on individual personal accounts. So whenever a banking employee communicates with a customer using, for instance, WhatsApp or any other instant messaging platform, it becomes a conversation employee and the customer who can see and get access into that conversation. Hence, there can be no oversight from a compliance perspective. And also, should the banking employee leave the bank, they will take the customer details and the conversations with them on their mobile phone to their new employer. So no records of the conversation will be left with the bank, and this is for obvious reasons not a good situation for the bank from several perspectives. The Novastone platform creates a centralized platform for the conversation so that compliance policies can be monitored and applied in a secure fashion. The conversation is only stored centrally, so the employee cannot walk off with the conversation and personal details of the customer. No messages exchanged with customers stays on the individual mobile app. All messages are centrally stored and encrypted. Novastone's central platform can be integrated with using regular APIs. Therefore, conversations can be automatically stored and allocated against customer accounts in the CRM system, and the documents exchanged can be stored in the document management system against the correct customer reference. Conversations can be queued against the right customer service team, and teams can be allocated to look after a customer relationship. Hence, the customer is no longer dependent on the individual staff member being available to answer a message. This provides the customer with a true 24/7 service experience. Messages, forms, or documents can kick off automated workflows that runs across other systems and departments and return to the customer conversation with answers and inputs to the client. The bank can use robotics and artificial intelligence to automate and streamline its processes. Since you can transfer files back and forth, files containing documents or any other media, like voice recordings, Glasswall is used for virus and malware removal, making the platform very, very secure. And since no files or messages is stored on the mobile app, and malware and viruses are removed centrally, malware cannot be stored on the mobile phone to eavesdrop on conversation. So to give you some introduction to Novastone as a platform from an international perspective, Novastone has been recognized in numerous awards globally. Some of these awards you apply for, and some of the evaluating organization freely select and award companies that fulfill certain evaluation criteria without any application. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but just to mention a few. NTT, for instance, is the biggest Japanese telco. Novastone was #1 out of 8 finalists in the category for how to help Japanese financial institutions to scale up digitally. And Japan has an aging population, and tech must be very easy to use, and the elderly in Japan expect excellent service. So after the award, Novastone has entered into conversations with multiple Japanese banks. Tech, another one, and Novastone just got selected for the 2021 shortlist. Any company in the wealth sector can apply. And it's a global program, and the panel picks the 100 companies most interesting to the wealth sector each year. And just to finally mention Gartner, who made an analysis on instant communication platforms that are secure and compliant for the financial industry, and Novastone was picked as a key vendor in this category. So moving on to the demonstration sections, we are going to run a couple of videos, and before we do that, just to give you a very brief introduction to the user interface in itself. So the platform comes with 2 client user interfaces. One is the obvious mobile app, and the mobile app is obviously used by the bank's customers. It is important to understand that the client can engage directly through WhatsApp with the bank and start conversations through the bank's WhatsApp account and storefront. And when the customer wants to be fully onboarded, or if sensitive information is about to be exchanged, the customer downloads the Novastone app in a seamless manner, and communication starts going through the Novastone app and centralized platform. It's a very secure KYC process. Face recognition and fingerprint technology can be used for login or approval of documentation and forms in the conversations. If the customer receives a message from the bank, it will come up as a URL notification in the customer's regular WhatsApp as well. And just clicking that URL launches the Novastone app and takes the user directly to the relevant message after authentication. This means the customer can be confident that they will always be notified of any message through their WhatsApp mobile app, if that is their preference. The staff can also communicate using the mobile app, but they also have the choice to work in the browser-based app, which might be more convenient in a customer service department environment, where there are constant messages coming through. The user interfaces are very intuitive, and you will immediately recognize the user interface functions from other instant messaging platforms. The demonstrations will alternate between the customer and the office staff. The office staff will, during the demonstration, mostly be using the browser-based user interface, and the customer will always be using their mobile app as demonstrated using iPhones. So back to you there, Jeremy, for introduction of the use cases to be demonstrated.
Lovely, thank you very much, Mikhail. So in our demonstration story, we are going to act as a private bank with a client called Vendela, who owns a small business and wants to contact the bank through her chosen IM tool for various transaction types. So in this first demonstration use case, Vendela is going to want to make an international payment to a business associate called Mr. Smith. And the Novastone platform will facilitate this, ensuring security, compliance and simple clarity for Vendela. So without much ado, straight on to the demonstration.
Now I thought we should take a quick look at what you can do with Forms. Forms is a piece of functionality that allows you to send formal transactions over Novastone, such as wire transfers, stock trading information, or anything really where you need a sign-off. That sign-off can then happen on the client's mobile app using fingerprints or face recognitions and so forth, as we will demonstrate in just a few minutes. Just wanted to show you that the forms are actually allocated here just next to your messaging window, and as you can see here, as I click this, I get a number of different forms to select from. I can select as a response to client request to do a stock transaction form, the account name and the stock that we're trading, if it's a buy or a sell. And you can also see that you can have drop down selections in these forms, the price, the share, the number, the fees, and so forth, and then to send that off for approval by the customer. Or for instance, as the example that we're going to run very soon is the wire transfer form, where you have different currency exchange rates. In here, we're gonna run one between euro and British pounds, but it could also be Canadian dollar or whatever, really. Where we're also setting the amounts, the IBAN account numbers, who the recipient is, and so forth and so on. And the final one here, as that we have as examples, is prescription form, where we're actually looking at a healthcare situation or use case, where we are sending off a prescription to a customer or to that is then later approved. But that's the introduction on what we can do with forms. Let's look at the actual use case and what we can do with it. So here we have the customer Vendela again, opening up her Novastone app on her iPhone. And she does that because she knows she's going to have to approve a wire transfer in a secure manner. So she enters the greeting for her bank contact, and then asking for that wire transfer of 1,000 euros. And she sends that off, and hopefully someone in the bank will respond to her. Moving to the banking side, showing this in the browser-based user interface. We could have shown this using the mobile app of Mikael Ahlström working in sales as well. It would have shown the same things, but in the mobile app. But we're showing you this in the browser-based user interface. We can see the request from Vendela has come through, and we're just giving her an answer, sure, no problem. And then we are opening up the wire transfer form to be filled in, and we're setting the recipient to be Mr. Smith. We're picking the euros and the 1,000. As well as the pound sterling to be transferred, and then we're sending off the form to Vendela for her to approve. Back on the customer side, on the mobile app, as Vendela test as the user, we can see that the wire transfer form coming through on our mobile app as a document. And Vendela, who wants to approve this, just clicks the form, and the pop-up with decline and authorize comes up. And as she wants to authorize it, she clicks the authorize button, and she is then asked to authorize. Then she could do that in two different ways, using fingerprint technology or facial recognition. And she's choosing to use her facial recognition functionality on her iPhone. She approves, and you can see that by the green tick in the box underneath the document, and she sends off a thanks to the bank. Let's move back over to the bank and see what happens on the banking side. On the banking side, we're waiting for the client approval to come through. And here we can see that it comes through as an approval by Vendela, a green tick in a box underneath the document. That basically ends the transaction, and we get a thanks from Vendela. That short demonstration hopefully shows how a wire transfer transaction can be executed with full traceability, full approval using technology such as fingerprint technology or facial recognition, and storage of that whole conversation for regulatory and compliance purposes.
Brilliant, thank you. So Vendela now wants to, in our next demonstration, wants to discuss a business mortgage. And in this scenario, we will demonstrate how the platform can facilitate dynamic conversations with clients by inviting experts into the conversation in a seamless manner to answer a question from Vendela in regards to the mortgage query. So the demonstration now.
So in this example, we want to show how easy it is to handle conversations and invite other experts and professionals into a client conversation to answer specific questions, and then again remove them out of that conversation should we wish to. So in this conversation, we can see that we have an incoming message from Vendela, and it seems like she has a question in regards to a mortgage, just to handle that in sort of a separate fashion, I'm suggesting that we're starting a new specific conversation around that. So that's what I'm doing here, and as I'm setting up this this conversation, you can also now see that I am going to the right-hand side, clicking at vendor test as the client that I'm talking to, and there creating a new conversation. And I'm naming that conversation the mortgage conversation. And that's the first thing I do in that mortgage conversation. I'm greeting Vendela. And I am then also inviting Mike, to staff assistant, into the conversation with Vendela, just because I know that he is a mortgage expert. Back on Vendela's phone, we see the invite and the suggestion to start a new conversation, which Vendela is opening up, and she sees the new conversation at the top of her screen with the greeting, and also the suggestion to invite a colleague, a mortgage specialist, who immediately asks Vendela what the question about in regards to mortgages. Back on Vendela's phone, she is typing in her question, asking what the interest rates are on mortgages. Back on the mortgage specialist screen, he's answering that the interest rates currently are 3%, and Vendela receives that information, as you can see just above the mobile keyboard. Back to myself, Mikael, as the administrator, the client administrator. I'm thanking Mike, the mortgage specialist, for his help. And then I am going up to the right-hand side to remove him from the conversation so that he's not attached to it going forward. I proceed with the removal of Mike from the conversation, and we receive a quick thanks from Vendela, and that's the end of the demonstration. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. So we've now seen how easy it is to collaborate and include experts into the conversation while keeping a clear audit trail of the evidence given in the transaction. So in our ongoing story, we will now demonstrate how we can assign a team to look after Vendela and her business. This obviously will ensure consistency of service and protection of relationships by ensuring that conversations don't become wholly dependent on a single relationship manager. So on to the demo.
So we have already seen that using relationships and conversations, we can invite different staff to participate in conversations with clients and so on, and we can remove them and invite them again and start new conversations on different topics. But I also wanted to show an important piece of functionality which relates to Teams, which is very, very beneficial for the customer. So to do that, I'm just going into my regular screen here as Mikael Ahlström, and I'm opening up the team functionality, looking up a team called UVC, and in that team we can see that there are 3 members currently, myself, Mikael Ahlström, but also Magnus and Graham. right? And we can see that they cover the relationship that we have with Vendela and her small medium enterprise business. And if we go further, we can see that we only have one current right now, and that is Vendela. So what that means for Vendela, if we look at her mobile phone, again, just taking a peek at the existing conversations that we have, coming back into the main screen, and then going into contacts, we can see that the team members here are listed for her, Graham, Magnus, and Michael, and she can start a conversation with any one of them. Should you wish to, and we can have a peek at the different profiles here. And then see that again via the profile, see that I have a number of ongoing conversations, or Vendela can see that we have a number of ongoing conversations already. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that I'm not available, and nor is Magnus and Graham. We can then go back into the Teams functionality, and I can add a team member. And I'm adding Mike, who we pretend was the mortgage specialist, into the team, because we suspect that Vendela might have more mortgage questions coming up. Take a look at the covered relationships. We see that the covered relationships for this team is the same as before, Vendela, SME, business. And also that under covered clients, we can see that Vendela is the covered client of that relationship. So going back into Vendela's mobile phone here, we again land at the conversations, but when we go into contacts, we can now see that Mike, too, the staff assistant, the mortgage specialist, is now showing up. And that means that Vendela can directly start a new conversation directly with Mike and ask an additional question here. And here she's asking what the best time period to lock the interest rate for would be, if it's 1 or 3 years. And then user interface that Mike has, we can see that he now has a new conversation here started by Vendela with the question about what the time period, what the best time period would be for locking your interest rates, and we can answer her directly. This is a really important piece of functionality because it allows the bank or the company to manage their customers and always making sure that there's someone that they can get in touch with, so that there's not a relationship based on one single individual. It's relationship based on teams and so forth.
Great, thank you. So we've now seen how easy it is to ensure consistency of service for Vendela through use of the Novastone platform. And note that a team can cover any number of relationships, which in reality would obviously be the case. The teams and the allocation of staff resources into the teams can also be picked up through integration from how the teams are organised in a CRM system or a other organisational platform, or even how incoming calls are routed to teams to ensure that team structures stay consistent across all the customer channels. So going forward with our story with Vendela, who owns her small business, she now wants to look to delegate some of the work and the relationship with the bank. And so she wants to invite her CFO to be able to work directly with the bank. So we'll now show you how we set him up as a new member on that relationship with the bank.
As a very short demonstration on how to handle many clients under the same sort of relationship, I just want to show you that really quickly. So we can see that we go into the search for the relationship that we have with Vendela and her small and medium enterprise business. And as we look up our relationship, we see that we have Vendela, obviously part of that relationship, but we've also had Michael Client, Awesome Client, as part of that relationship. The important part to understand here is that both Michael here, client, who did belong to the same relationship as Vendela, which is called the Vendela Small Medium Enterprise Business, it's the same relationship, and that means that Vendela and Michael here did belong to the same small medium enterprise business, and they could talk to each other. For instance, they could actually set up their own conversations between themselves should they wish to, using the Novastone platform, and it allows us to manage them as one relationship going forward. The relationship is covered by one team. It could be covered by many different teams, but also the staff coverage from that team is Magnus Graham, Mike to Mikael, and the ownership of this whole relationship being set up from the very beginning is Mikael Ahlström. But just to show you how simple it is to add members, I'm going to add Mikael Client back into the members list of this team. And now that Mikael Client Ahlström is a member of this relationship, on his mobile app, he would also now be able to see everybody who is part of the UVC team, and he could search and start conversations with any of them.
Fantastic. So we've now seen how easy it is for Vendela to delegate to other people in her team while keeping a full audit trail of the request. So in our final demonstration, we'd like to show you how important integration is for different customer channels to become efficient and compliant. As you've seen through many of the demonstrations to date, integration has played a part within the mortgage demonstration, within the foreign exchange transaction. So we'll walk you through some of the most common and obvious integration points now.
There is something really important to demonstrate from an integration standpoint between the Novastone platform and, for instance, with backend systems such as accounting systems, customer management systems, CRM systems, HR systems, and so forth. If we, for instance, go to clients here and pick our favorite customer or favorite client, we can see over here that we have something called mapped systems. There's nothing filled in there right now, but this tab, mapped systems, the only purpose is to link to unique identifiers in other systems, such as CRM systems, accounting, document management systems, and so forth. As an example, if we go back to our conversations, we, for instance, did a wire transfer for Vendela where she approved a form, as you can see in this screen. So that combination of using forms and mapping that, for instance, to a document management system with a unique identifier for Vendela would allow us to store that form against Vendela in that document management system, providing proof and regulatory compliance for something like that. But as a matter of fact, any entity in Novastone, if we pick myself here, has this mapped systems entity as part of the system. For staff members, it might be relevant to integrate with HR systems, time reporting systems, and whatnot. And the same goes for relationships, where you also have mapped systems, where you might want to have different types of groupings mapping into other backend systems. And just to show you full completeness, the Teams functionality also have mapped systems So this is all for back-end integration, and that is what really makes Novastone unique. It is a centralized platform for instant messaging conversations in a secure manner with your clients using WeChat, WhatsApp, and so forth. And it allows you back-end integration so that you can store the conversations, you can search the conversations, or you can store conversations with unique IDs against your customers in your document management systems, CRM systems, etc.
So we've now shown you how Novastone can integrate with other systems to enable compliance, RPA, automation, and workflows that run across a system landscape involving many parts of the organization until it returns the conversation with an answer. So with that as the final demonstration, we hope that you feel that you've received an introduction on how you can start connecting with clients on instant messaging channels such as WhatsApp, WeChat, etc., using Novastone as the centralized platform to enable an end-to-end secure, automated and dynamic process which allows clients to choose their preferred way of interacting with the bank. And with that, I'd like to pass back to Colin and we can open up for any questions that anybody may have.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy and Mikhail, for a very informative presentation. I do have a few questions. Before we get to those, I have just posted in the Q&A a link to the website where the recording will be placed tomorrow, should you wish to go back and look at it again. So just to go back to the questions. So first question I have is, how do you get the clients to choose their preferred methods of communication?
It's a very good question. Thank you, Colin. So the bank would, for instance, have handles for WhatsApp or WeChat or Facebook Instant Messenger or whatever messaging channel they wish to have or present to their customers. And the customers can then click on those handles. If it's, as we've been using in this presentation, a WhatsApp handle, they would start the conversation with the bank through whatever they choose. If it is the WhatsApp conversation, and that will kick off that conversation with the bank using their WhatsApp business account. And it would be the same thing if it would have been WeChat or Facebook Instant Messaging and so forth. And then as the conversation progresses, they would seamlessly move over to the Novastone platform if they were about to exchange very sensitive information or exchange files or documents that requires approvals and so on and so forth. So hopefully that answers the question. Is there any other questions, Colin?
Next question is, you mentioned the ability to trigger workflows. Are these Novastone workflows, or are you initiating workflows in other systems, or a combination of both?
Yeah, so Novastone obviously has the APIs for all the integration, but the workflow or the workflow software would be any software that the bank or the financial services firm or whatever already has in-house, or whatever they choose to purchase. So the workflows would be running in the workflow system. They would be kicked off by Novastone. That allows the bank to run those workflows on top of any other system, their accounting systems, the ERP systems, the HR systems, and the workflow could take them back into the Novastone conversation, responding to the customer questions, and then take off the new workflows. And that allows the processes to be automated, and obviously the bank could be using robotics or AI in those workflows. So the workflows are actually not part of the Novastone platform, but it runs on top of the Novastone platform, just using the APIs for integration.
And I think, oh, sorry, and I was going to add to that, Mikhail, as well, that I think that's where the power of having a centralized, consolidated platform for channel management into the broader processes in the organization brings the ability to enable, controls, compliance, and efficiency in the way that customer interactions are handled, but also really does mean that we can start to put in place really good operational resilience on any of those key channels that we have with clients as well.
That's exactly right, Jeremy. And it doesn't matter whether the conversations are initiated or comes through WhatsApp, WeChat, or Facebook or whatever. It's so you would have the same workflows, if you may, servicing all of those channels, and that's where it becomes 360-degree channel management, as you described in the introduction of the whole presentation. So, Colin, anything else coming up?
Yep, so I've got a couple of questions around security/encryption. Probably deal with them together. So the first one is, does Novastone use the built-in WhatsApp encryption, or does it offer any additional features? So that's obviously focused more on the messaging side. The second one is also, are the stored messages, once they're stored centrally in Novastone, also encrypted?
Yeah, so while the conversation might be initiated using, for instance, WhatsApp, that sort of conversation, the initiated conversation, is using the WhatsApp encryption. As the conversation is moved over to Novastone, that's then encrypted by Novastone, and no messages are held locally by the mobile app. It's all stored centrally and encrypted centrally by Novastone, and also virus scans and malware scans happening centrally on the Novastone platform. And that's why Novastone is so much of a more secure platform than any of the available instant messaging platforms. So it provides that added layer, necessary layer of security for banks and financial institutions. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's good. Thank you, Mikhail. So 3 more questions I have at the moment. So do you supply standard form templates which can be customized?
Yeah, so there's a handful of available forms, but the forms are usually quite easily crafted based on the use cases that the bank or the corporation wants to run with, really. So that's part of the sort of the integration or customization of those use cases and conversations.
Thank you, Mikhail. Question around teams. So you talked earlier around allocating a team to the client. So I have a question asking, when you allocate the team, is there a way to prioritize which team member is the preferred member to deal with this client, so they're brought into the conversation first if available?
No, so all team members would be able to see and answer that conversation without any current prioritization. This is something that we're looking into adding to the future roadmap, but currently they would all be seeing that incoming question or conversation with the same priority, basically.
Okay, thank you.
But I think on the sorry, just to add to that, on the teams though, the client can direct a question to an individual if they want to, can't they?
Yeah, they can. They can address someone directly, and obviously then that person will answer it. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Final question. So the last use case we looked at was integration. I think maybe I've covered this, but the question is, integration with other systems such as CRM, chatbots, etc. sounds complex. How easy is it for Novastone to integrate with other systems with API adapter-based integration?
Well, because all the APIs for the Novastone platform is already all available there, and the RESTful APIs, it's just a matter of standard integration. So using the workflow engines or robotics engines or AI, it's a matter of simple integration that you would be in the same way or in the same manner as you would integrate with any other platform that has APIs or RESTful APIs. So it really comes down to the integration platform, the robotic software, or the AI software, how complicated it is, because the APIs are there to service all of them in the same manner, basically.
Okay, thank you, Mikhail. That concludes all of the questions that we have for today.
So no more questions. Okay, well, in that case, thank you very much, everybody, for your time and for those insightful questions. And we hope that you found the introduction to Novastone of value, and how you can see that by using the platform you can transform customer communication. If you'd like to follow up, please do contact either myself or Mikhail on our contact details here. And as Colin mentioned, the recording of this will be available very shortly. And with that, I would like to say once again, thank you very much. Stay safe, and we'll hopefully talk again soon.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.